Hi. So I haven't used a template for my presentation whatsoever. I've just completely ignored it. It's pretty much bare bones, but that's how I like it. What I was going to do today was talk about a project that I'm working on and then sort of do an overview of web audio and the web audio API, talking about it in terms of music, but then also how you could use it for games. And then we'll just go off into some sort of like little just like fun demos that I'm interested in online, and we'll see. Hopefully they work. Okay, so I don't know if any of you here have like done any coding, particularly with HTML and JavaScript before, but there's the Web Audio API has been sort of in the development for the last 5 years, maybe 4 years. It sort of started off with Google, Firefox, Mozilla, trying to sort of just sort of make it standard how audio is used within the web browser. And it's sort of been developed over the last 4 or 5 years, and slowly now Windows have got rid of Internet Explorer and they've got Edge. Now things now work on Edge, sort of. So it's becoming more widely used. And basically, the reason why the Web Audio API is exciting is it offers up lots of opportunity for experimentation, and because the HTML, the JavaScript canvas, which is often used to draw graphics within a web browser, that was developed, and it was very flexible, and you can do quite a lot within it. But audio was just left behind, so you could just write an audio tag and put your file in, and you could kind of do stuff with it, but you were very limited. And so I'm going to just talk about where it's going now and the really exciting things that you can do with audio. So within a when you're writing for using the Web Audio API in JavaScript, you need to start off with on each page something called the audio context. You're basically telling it what context the code you're writing about is referring to. So the audio context is referring to audio. And then from there, you can start adding in sources and then different things to manipulate the audio. And this is a thing called modular routing. So it's basically like Max MSP or Pure Data. You are adding in nodes and routing things between each other to the output. So it's quite an exciting way of working. And so I'll just go on to. It's got some diagrams here. This is like the most simple way in using the Web Audio API of getting audio to play and then out to the speakers. And you would just write your bit of code where the source is after you've written the context of the code, and then you could add in a node, so a bicod filter or EQ, so a little bit of code that represents that, and then link it to the destination. That is like pretty much the most simple way of doing it. And if you're sort of interested in how you might do that, there's a really great demo online called the Web Audio Playground. And this is literally just, you can try things out. So you can see here, there's an audio buffer source, which basically, it's called an audio buffer source because the source that you you want to load in, the audio file is loaded into the web page first to be used by the web browser. You could set up an oscillator, and this doesn't use any files or anything like that. It's just, this is the code, so you're telling it whether it's a sine wave or square wave and that kind of thing. Or, which is kind of most interesting, is you could use a live input through a microphone or an instrument. So you could put in an audio source, and so as the example before, a biquad filter, and you would write the code to link it up together, and then to the destination. It's magic. But obviously, that's a very simple way of doing it, but it's a good way of just seeing the routing system. And you can get as complex as you want. You can have, you can mix audio sources through the same buffer, just as you would in your DAW. You would route them, make buses, and that kind of thing. And so the project that I'm currently working on developing is making an online mixer. In fact, I'll show you. I'll just go straight away and show you and talk about that. So I'm developing a mixer online, which will. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my thoughts together here. So with the Web Audio API, the thing that's great about it, and I mentioned earlier that before you could only really play one audio file at once, but now you can play multiple at the same time. So within a mixer environment, you can play it like you would a DAW. Fade out. So you can see there, and I'm not a massive coder at all, but I have been investigating it and starting to understand things. I've been looking at other people's code, which is a great way to learn, and sort of taking bits. And so I've sort of put together this. Just a simple mixer where I can mute the audio. When the page loads, I've told it that I want it to start at a certain level. So you can see it's already sort of defined, but someone could go on and then play with it themselves. But this isn't quite where I want it to go yet. The goal for this project is to make it an ever-changing piece of music. So there's a piece of JavaScript code called moment.js, and that defines a timestamp for the code. And basically, what I want that to do is when there's a specific time or date, it will pick the source file, so from a Dropbox folder or a server, and what I would like it to do is pick the six files, and then when it changes to the next day, it shifts everything along. So this one here would disappear, and there'd be a new one added on the other side. But each track that's added is in reference to what's come before it. So it's kind of like a procedurally generated piece of music, but a sort of manually human-generated piece of music. which kind of sounds a bit crazy actually, but it's yeah, I'm quite excited by getting that working together. So it doesn't quite work yet. So yeah. So here's an example of a very complicated sort of graph of what you might do with the mixer, or with your on a web audio application. Lots of routing to different places, and something that's really interesting that I've just discovered is that you can really easily do convolution reverb. So your impulse responses, it's just a short piece of code, and you match an audio file with it, and it just does it. There's nothing, no other magic to it other than it takes that audio file and matches the convolution, and just does the job for you. And then you can control the amount of mix, if you will. Yeah. It's kind of one of those things, once you get to a certain point of understanding the code, it's actually quite straightforward and stuff does just work. But then it's really unforgiving if you type something wrong, and that's just really annoying. Okay, so I don't know where the stuff's gone from here. So I guess I wanted to talk about games here, and got a couple of examples. So the Flight Arcade. This might be quite loud. Just turn it down.
Are you ready to fly? Use the right and left arrow keys to turn and the up and down arrow keys to climb or descend. If you have a gamepad controller, that works too. See that ring in front of us? Try and fly right through the middle.
So that's seems quite cheesy actually. It's very cheesy. The things that are going on in there are quite interesting. Obviously, it's all just made with code, and there's no like plugins involved. So it's not like your. I think you would have to download a Unity plugin sometimes into your browser to run a game or an application, or it used to be like Flash, like all that long time ago. But that's all just like running within the browser. So the things that are going on, like the throttle sound, is an example of how that's working. So just quite simply changing the pitch, and that's sort of affecting the throttle sound there. And then with the voice, it's quite easy to do that sort of distortion effect, and you can just write in the code for that.
Here's a tip. Try reducing the throttle to slow down a little.
That will give you more time between targets.
But careful, don't go too slow or the engine might stall.
It's a really bad voiceover. But you can see that it's like that. That's just the code itself affecting the audio file, and so it saves on assets, that kind of thing. here. So with these little examples I'm showing you, you're seeing that the waveform has been sort of fed back to us, so we can see that kind of analysis. That's one of the things that I'm really excited about. That eventually, with the project that I'm working on, I'd like each track to be represented through some sort of analysis. So I had the volume was represented, but it would be really nice to attribute frequency, that kind of thing, to manipulate graphics in some sort of way. There's a really amazing demo that does this really well, and it was sort of a promo website for an album made by a really talented developer. So you can control these graphical elements within the website, and it changes the sound as well as it changes the animations within it. And it's all reacting just within the browsers. I didn't quite know which sort of animation was the fade out one there, but so I just had to cut it off. But you can see that's quite like an effective way of using graphics and the web audio API. One of the things I wanted to touch on, I've just completely ignored my slides now because I'm not sure there's much of an order to it. One of the things I wanted to touch on is at the moment there's still problems with making an application for a web browser. It doesn't quite translate completely to mobile. It sort of does. But there's just workarounds you have to do. So playing lots of audio files at the same time is a problem, particularly on iOS. So there's workarounds that you need to do with that. So one of the ways you can do that is creating an audio sprite. So like a sprite character sheet for a game, it will split an audio file up into kind of chunks. There's a demo here called Bohemian Rhapsody, which is amazing. So this is, I'll just refresh just so I know it's in the right right order. So is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? So what they've done with this demo is chopped Bohemian Rhapsody up into all these little sections, and I think the colours represent maybe something with like frequency or just length or volume. But what you can do with this site is rearrange them. So you could sort those to loudness, shifts them all around, and then you can play Bohemian Rhapsody.
What's it like towards the end?
Well, I think it's pretty much the best thing on the internet. So they've won. Well done to them. So that's the idea of basically each sort of sprite is given a time, and it will just, that's what they're doing there. Obviously, there's a few more things going on in terms of analysing and that kind of thing, but it's kind of an interesting way, and that works the same on mobile. I won't go on too much more because I haven't got too much time, but a really great resource, if you're interested, is HTML5 Rocks. And this guy, Boris Smus, he's really sort of succinctly described how the web audio API works, and then also with game audio. I say sort of succinctly, you still need to know a little bit about JavaScript code, but it's a really good resource. Other demos. I recently have, with the project that I'm looking to develop, I got in touch with this company called Massive Music, and they do sonic branding for different companies. I think one they've just done was with Cornetto, and that's basically sonic branding is they take it's sort of like a chord structure and a sort of melodic kind of signifier, and they sort of do all the music for any advertising material, so it fits within this. So there's that kind of like it's to do with Cornetto, but they've been looking into interactive web applications, and their latest one called Morph is pretty good. So yeah, sorry about that. Got quite loud towards the end there. The reason why I wanted to mention Morph, that project there, they worked with a studio called Enzian, who developed this compiler called Heavy, and this is quite interesting. You can develop a patch or a plugin within Pure Data, and basically feed it into Heavy, and they will spit it out so you can use it for within Wise, Unity, and iOS. So this might be something that might be quite useful, maybe for your for you guys. Yeah, so it just means you could develop within one thing and then spit it out to other outputs. Yeah, that's about all I've got to talk about right now.